Hello and welcome to the Business of Possibility podcast with Ulster University Business School. I'm Wendy Austin, and in this series we're diving deep into the world of business here in Northern Ireland, looking at how they're staying afloat in the current climate. And we're finding that even during a pandemic, or perhaps particularly so, businesses here continue to innovate and show their real entrepreneurial spirit. This episode, Innovate to Survive, focuses on skills and expertise, adapting them to answer current needs, also to remain viable, to provide creative solutions to problems, and looks at how businesses are building resilience through innovation. Glad to say we're joined on the podcast by Dr. Kristel Miller, Senior Lecturer at Ulster University Business School. Hi, Kristel.
Hi, lovely to be here.
Good to have you along. Also, Ciaran Doherty, who's General Manager of Huhtamaki Foodservice UK. Hello, Ciaran.
Hi, Wendy. How you doing?
Good, thanks very much. And last but not least, Gareth Irvine, who's founder of Copeland Gin Distillery, to which I suspect many of us have been turning in recent weeks. Hello, Gareth.
Hey, Wendy. How's it going?
Not so bad here, thanks very much. Now, together our panel are going to be sharing real life experiences of pivoting business models and repurposing operations in an effort simply to survive at the moment. There are a couple of really great stories to be told too. So let's just first get a wee bit of background, how you came to be where you are today, basically. Gareth and Ciaran, I know that both of you have been students at Ulster University. Ciaran, tell us a bit about that.
Yes, hi. I'm originally a Queen's graduate, did a degree in economics at Queen's, and then was very fortunate to win a place at Ulster University to do a full-time MBA. Oh, that was back too many years ago now, Wendy. It was back in, I think, about 1997 or so. I did the full-time MBA with Jordanstown. Up until that point, I wasn't really quite sure what I wanted to do. But the MBA was really great. It gave me a really good insight into all the different aspects of business. It gave me enough to know that I definitely wanted to do something in business. At that point, not really quite sure what. What I did after that was I joined Allied Bakeries to be on a graduate management trainee program, which is something I would recommend for anybody wanting to get into business, because it really gave me a good insight into all the different aspects of business: sales, marketing, accounts. But I really found my home in operations. So I spent 8 odd years in Allied Bakeries making Kingsmill, starting off in Belfast, moving across into the UK and to looking at group continuous improvement projects. Started a family over there. Came back home to Northern Ireland to be close to my mum and dad and Karen's mum and dad for babysitting, and joined Moy Park. Very soon after that became the general manager of the home site in Moy Park, Craigavon. After I spent some years with Moy Park before becoming operations director for Irvine's Bakery, another local household name here in Northern Ireland. And then after Irvine's, I spent 5 really, really enjoyable years. Very proud position of being general manager of operations for bus services and train services in TransLink, looking after all of the buses and trains in the public transport system here in Northern Ireland. That was 5 really proud years before joining Huhtamaki, who I'm with now. Huhtamaki, a Finnish business with 34, operating out of 34 countries, 81 different manufacturing units across the globe. And my role here is that I am responsible for all of the UK business, 6 sites across the UK. And here
we'll hear more about Huhtamaki and what you've been doing recently as we go along. Gareth, tell us a bit about you now and about how you got to be where you are now.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having us on. I joined the Ulster University Business School in 2012 after a gap year out, not knowing if I was actually going to go to uni. But yeah, in 2012 then I joined the University of Ulster in Coleraine to do business management degree. For the first 2 years, we learned all the ins and outs of business, as you can imagine, and then went on a gap year where I ended up selling IT software for 2 years. Software that people probably didn't really need, but I was an alright salesperson, so it wasn't too hard. within that final year of coming back to uni, I decided to keep on the job, but go part-time into the final degree. Now that then spread across 2 years. Within that, though, the business management degree, the last part of it was a entrepreneurship module where you had to come up with an idea. The further you got the idea, the more points you effectively got. And that's kind of when the idea started. I've been within the drinks industry for a number of years, from working in a bar locally to bars during uni and things like that. And I've always been interested in the back office side of them and how they ran and how they made money and how they worked. And I suppose the whole spirits idea came up after looking at the market and testing what I thought was a viable product in local bars around Bangor, with IKEA flip-top plastic bottles, things like that, making product in my mum's kitchen in Bangor, and then testing the idea. And back then, we took about 9 months to get a business plan together. This was back in 2016. By about 2017 in the summer, we decided to do a crowdfunding campaign. Where over 7 weeks we raised about 30 grand to get the initial capital going, and that's when it all kicked off. Then in November 2017 is when we launched. We're now across 5 markets globally, and we're in a new 6,500 square foot distillery, which I'll go into later on. But no, it's been a long. It feels like it's been a long, but we're only coming up to 3 years old in business here. But yeah, that's all started in uni, from the university programs, including Santander University, to the small university business school events and things like that. It's all spanned from there, and we definitely keep in contact with everyone as well.
Well, those are good stories. And Kristel, from your point of view, that must be music to your ears to hear the degree to which Ulster University's Business School has actually fed into both Ciaran and Gareth's experience.
Yeah, completely. Particularly because I teach innovation and entrepreneurship. I didn't teach any of these unfortunately. But yeah, it's really wonderful to hear that those types of modules, really lead to, business ideas and people becoming very successful in different industries.
Well, now, over the last few months, everything has been just completely different for most people, I think. Tell us, Ciaran, a bit about your experience over that period of time and how you've had to change.
Yeah, this has been a tumultuous period for us, for sure, Wendy. I mean, I introduced myself there as having been working for Huhtamaki, but you won't recognize that brand. Most people won't recognize that brand, but you will recognize the businesses who we make packaging for. So we make pretty much all of the packaging for McDonald's. You go into any McDonald's restaurant anywhere in the UK or indeed all of Europe, you will eat your product from a Huhtamaki package. Kellogg cereal boxes, Costa coffee cups, Starbucks coffee cups. The list is endless of the big blue chip companies, mostly all in food and drink, who we're making packaging for. Whenever the pandemic really kicked in, virtually all of those customers that I've just mentioned either completely shut down or massively scaled back their operations. So it was an incredibly difficult few weeks for us towards middle to end of March. And at one time, I have about 1,500 workers here in the UK. And we had to, as a team, furlough off the vast majority of those guys, just to sort of try to keep ourselves afloat. So it was an incredibly difficult period for us up to that point.
But then there was a bit of a light bulb moment, wasn't there? And it's a very Northern Ireland story, given that it turns out that the young guy that you kind of partnered with, you both went to the same school, you come from virtually the same place. You couldn't make it up, really. Yeah,
Cormac's family and my family, we've known each. We've been, through many generations from the same part of the country. Cormac and I went to school together, and he works for a really innovative company called Block Blinds. Literally, as the name suggests, make window blinds. Doing very well in that industry, but like ourselves, their industry was hard hit, and people weren't buying blinds whenever they weren't at work. So they, in the first 2 weeks of lockdown, get into using their handcraft skills to be making face visors for the NHS at a reasonably impressive scale for using their craft skills. But whenever we were faced with our problem, and I was aware of what Cormac and Block Blinds were doing. We came in contact, and very quickly into the conversation, I realised that although we had never processed the kind of plastic that they were using to make face visors, quickly realised that we could use our high-speed packaging equipment to process that. So going from producing tens of thousands a week, which Cormac and his team were doing, which was incredibly impressive. Within the space of about 3 weeks, we got ourselves into a position where we had the capability to produce over 3 million visors a week. And we're now at the stage where we are producing over 4 million visors a week. We have won major contracts with NHS Northern Ireland initially, and we now have a major contract in place to supply NHS England. And as it stands, right now, we are the single biggest supplier of face visors into the NHS UK. And that's really coming from a standing start, really, literally a standing start in the sort of second, third week of March.
It's fantastic, actually, isn't it? And Gareth, now, who would have thought that at this stage in the year we were putting nearly as much alcohol on our hands as we might normally have been had the sun been shining, sitting outside sipping at? Tell us how you turned Copeland Gin round.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I suppose for the past 2 years, we've been working since we started out of a 900 square foot business park in Saintfield. It's fairly cold, quiet. You can probably imagine what it looked like. So we in early 2018, we decided we were going to invest in a larger premises, and that took about 9 months to get. So we've really only been in our current home in Donaghadee here for probably 13 months now. Now we're on month 4 of the pandemic, I believe. And we had a lot planned. We had a lot riding on. We have a fairly large mortgage, as you can probably imagine. We have a lot riding on this year in terms of new markets, new developments, new investment that we were planning on doing. And the summer had to kick off. A lot like people's drinking habits. Generally, January, February is always quieter. People go back to the gym. People have a lot of alcohol, wine, beer, spirits left over from Christmas that they get given. So January, February is always quiet. March is kind of, it's go time again. And then, of course, the coronavirus hit. I think from memory, the bar shut about the 23rd of March. But not only in Northern Ireland did the bar shut, the off-sales were also ordered to shut as well. Now, when the bar shut, that probably accounted for roughly 60% of our business. That 60% was just slashed completely. About 30% of that accounts for off-sales and multinationals and Tesco and places like that. They shut their, I suppose, their requirement based on our suppliers being shut as well. We can't sell gin if we can't get bottles. The whole supply chain shut down. So we probably lost overnight probably 95% of our business. We thankfully have a few contracts. We have a bit of stock here as well that we were still fulfilling, but there was a lot of export going out. But we had to reevaluate. I remember sitting in the office where we are now, and about 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon when the bars were told they need to shut in 3 hours. And I said to my staff, now thankfully I don't have 1,500 like Ciaran, I have 6. And I said to every one of them, I said, look guys, I'm not really too sure where we're going to be next week. This is what we have. I have a fairly open policy here. I said, this is where the business is at. This is where we can survive to. I'm not too sure what next week is going to bring. Furlough wasn't really mentioned at this stage. But we'll ride it out what it is. And we'll see. Everyone take off Monday and I'll chat to you on Monday. Or I'll chat to you on Tuesday. So fairly quickly on the Monday, I pulled everyone back in as they were all delighted. And within, I suppose, a couple of hours, we had decided we're going to transfer to the PPE, but like Block Blinds and O'Neill's and business at Huhtamaki, places like this. So we decided we're going to do what we have a readily supply of, which is alcohol, as you can imagine. What we have a good supply chain of in terms of labels and bottling, our in-house bottling line and labeling line. And we just flipped it. Within 5 days, we had a product that we didn't have the week before, which was a hand sanitizer. It was in a different container to which it is now. We were looking at everything. If you've ever been, or if you ever worked in a commercial kitchen, you'll probably see submersion bags that people would put meat in, and then they would slow cook in a bag of water. We were effectively putting hand sanitizer in those bags and closing them the same way with a guillotine type heater. And we were closing those and selling those. And that just started the whole transformation, I suppose, of Distillery in terms of spirits and gin to hand sanitizer. Very quickly, we chatted as well to the NHS. They came to us after investing. I actually helped out in terms of the hand sanitizer. We got a fairly substantial contract with the NHS that covered us for 2 or 3 weeks of supply. And we brought in more staff. A lot of the guys who we brought in were furloughed. They didn't really know where they were going to do. So we brought in furloughed staff. The guys we brought in were within the same group of us. So my partner came in. The guys who worked for me, their partners came in and helped out. So because we didn't want to bring in new people, and put them at risk and then put the business at risk, which I know we've all been worried about as well, especially when you start bringing in people back to the office. But we were doing that right in the middle of this. To date, from the hand sanitizer started about 15 weeks ago, to date we've supplied probably just shy of 140,000 litres of hand sanitizer. It's a phenomenal amount. If you could fill a football field with IBCs, which is 1,000 litre containers, you could fill it and you'd have room on top as well. It's a phenomenal amount. But thankfully, within 5 days, we were able to get a design, get a supply chain, and get the product out there. So it's been challenging. It's been eye-opening. Same as Ciaran, probably it's been very stressful. It's definitely aged me. But I have a very good team behind me at the same time, and I'm thankful that they all didn't shy away, because there would have been a lot of people. I'm not sure where they stood in terms of their business, and I had a fantastic team behind me, and we've been doing that ever since.
It's an amazing story. They're both amazing stories, actually. And I mean, Kristel, you specialise in innovation management and strategy, and I'm sure you've seen lots of turnarounds in your time. But what we've been hearing from Ciaran and from Gareth, and what we've been seeing going on here over the last few months has been quite remarkable, really, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think it has been really impressive. The quick responses that lots of companies have made to their business models has really been incredible. And I think we can learn a lot from these organizations. Really core to rapidly responding to a crisis is having that strategic agility. And we heard there both from Ciaran and Gareth that very early on they really identified what was their strengths and what was their core capabilities, and realized that those strengths and capabilities aren't necessarily industry bound or sector bound, and that they can actually adapt them to various different market needs. And the core way that they done that was really looking and scanning their environment for those supply chain opportunities. So really those market needs that everyone really needed, and they were able to really sense and seize and match those strengths and capabilities to make those opportunities. And I think a lot of companies have been able to do that really, really quickly, and it's quite inspiring in how people were able to overcome those initial few weeks of fear of their businesses and being able to transform their business models.
I mean, that agility that you were talking about there, Kristel, and that we've heard about from both Ciaran and Gareth, that has been crucial in this, hasn't it? Because, at the beginning, there was just a sort of blind panic around everyone. I mean, it was nice to hear that neither of you seemed to actually be panicking, but there was certainly the potential for it at that stage, and being agile enough to spot an opportunity and kind of literally pull it out of the air is quite a tribute to companies here, Kristel.
Completely. Agility, in a time like this is very, very difficult. And, we heard from both the companies there that really, it was their networks. So a lot of, their networks were able to help them with knowledge. So identifying opportunities that were there from scanning the environment through their networks helped them with that agility. So looking out, outwards, looking for knowledge outwards, that's really close to you. Whether it's your family, your friends, your peers, your customers, your suppliers, even your competitors, everyone really is pulling together to try to come up with new ideas quite rapidly, and we can do it whenever we have this pool of knowledge that everyone's really willing to share.
I see both Gareth and Ciaran nodding at that. What skills, Ciaran, would you say have come to the fore to aid this whole transformation and get you to where you are now?
I think it's mostly not just for me personally, but for the team. They sort of accepting the challenge and the fearlessness to be able to take on something new. And probably, if we're honest, that was kind of forced upon us. Maybe we were complacent before. Not that we were doing well. The business has been grown strength to strength the last few years. We're continuing to add products and continue to grow with our customers, but we hadn't really been challenging ourselves to look at outside of our core traditional industry. So that we were sort of pushed into a position where we needed to do something else. So that ability and hunger to say, right, we're not going to take it. We're not just going to sit down and close the factory and pretend to be busy for the next few months, hoping that we continue to keep our jobs. So the team really did stand up. I'm talking about skills as well. I mean, it has really challenged us as how we go about our day-to-day work. We're all used to jumping on airplanes. We're all used to sitting around boardroom tables. We're all used to saying, right, what's the agenda? What do we need to do the next time? But whenever we were in a situation like that, it was, well, hang on a second, there is no next time. This is, we need to make decisions like literally right now. The product has to be with the customer like next Wednesday. Normally, business processes like that take weeks and months to plan and to legislate against and to produce new working practices and all that kind of stuff, which is traditional in business. But whenever we put in a situation like that, it teaches us and forces us to be agile, and we learn the different skills around jumping in and out of different meetings many different times a day, having working sessions. So it's not just a traditional meeting where you discuss what the plan's going to be. What you find in a situation like this is that the meeting is the working setting as well. So it's right, okay, what do we need to do today? Right, let's do it right now. Can I see what you're working on at your screen? Let's cut over to the design table and see what those guys are doing. Everybody's talking, everybody's interacting. The other thing that we found as well during that period was, the traditional 9 to 5 really absolutely went out the window as well. We were working, design teams across the globe. We were, tapping into different legal teams across the globe. And we were, everybody working exceptionally hard, and that kind of work spirit and work ethic enabled that.
To what extent have you been able, Ciaran, to protect? When we heard Gareth saying that he was getting extra people in to help out, I mean, to what extent have you been able to protect jobs as a result of this?
We have grown our staff. So over the period, right now we are employing more staff than we did before lockdown. So we went from employing 1,500 core staff. A big percentage, 75% maybe of those staff have been furloughed at a period, and we're now beyond where our employment level was before we started. So not only do we have protected jobs, we've actually generated employment, and that all comes out in a little bit about what the future holds for us. But we have secured future employment and employment growth over the period.
And Gareth, I could see you nodding at various stages when Ciaran was talking there, both about the kind of skills that had come to the fore to help this along, about the way that people are working, and you were nodding particularly strongly when he said that the 9 to 5 thing had gone out the window. How has this all taken over your life?
I don't know if you can tell by looking at me, the 9 to 5 certainly has gone out the window. I mean, Ciaran was chatting there about, we usually take weeks or months, to do NPD. Whereas we were, we would usually spend months, if not half a year testing a product. We launched a product right in the middle of this, which we had started in September last year. A new gin, or we launched it on the back of wanting to do business as usual, but we'd spent months and months and months testing that product. The 9 to 5 completely went out the window. We were seeing a need, we were seeing an immediate need, and not one of my staff said, "Oh, well, it's 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock on a Friday." Whenever Clap for the Cars was on, every Thursday night at 8 o'clock, we were still out the front doing it because we had to work kind of 9 to 9, 9 to 10. We would usually every week, every Monday have a team meeting, and every Friday have a team meeting with a plan for the week. That turned into every day, every morning in the office, which the question was, what's the plan today? Which I would generally reply to, I don't know yet, give me till lunchtime, because the supply chain wasn't there. The supply chain didn't know either. The biggest problem we had was sourcing, which I've spent the past 12 weeks doing, was sourcing raw materials from everywhere you can think of. The businesses that we've supplied, they're in every single sector, from massive utility companies to the NHS to small corner shops. We supplied, I think we did a count of 32 sectors, and well over 400 and something commercial orders went out. So it was huge, but we all pulled through. We were starting to do things within days that generally would have taken weeks, like Ciaran said there, like tenders. We put a tender in for the NHS, on the Monday, and I believe by the Thursday it was awarded. That never happens. But no, we all pulled through. We all learned. There was a lot of learning. My old job was working in sales in a startup company, so I'd always learned to be quite lean, and things would always change dramatically, and that's never been more prevalent than right now. But it's definitely. It's not only changed me, I suppose, in terms of how I manage the guys, but probably in terms of how the guys manage themselves. There's been a lot of people who have, taken more, I suppose, more management on that whenever they don't need to. But it's not because that they want they want a new job or an increase in salary. It's because they had to, because we had to step up, and it's been great. And it really shows you that the people that you've hired are behind you, and I'm sure Ciaran thinks the same. So
it's interesting, isn't it? That whole business right from the start, that we're all in this together, does seem to have percolated through everything that you've been talking about. I wonder too, Kristel, I mean, the ability for both Copeland and Huhtamaki and many other businesses to create that window of opportunity for their companies to ultimately save their business has relied on a very quick and innovative response. How can organisations foster that kind of innovation and creative thinking when it's not an absolute necessity? I mean, this was really innovating to survive, wasn't it?
Yeah, I suppose, it's a very, it's a very unheard of time where companies, as we heard, have been forced to do it, whereas it's something that companies should always be thinking of doing. And when it comes to innovation and creative thinking, there is always that mental block that a lot of individuals have, which they first have to overcome. I think COVID-19 forced a lot of people to jump over that hurdle very quickly, but normally a lot of people have those mental blocks where they might think we're not creative, or they might think that innovation involves this mammoth task, a lot of expense, whereas in reality, innovation really is about doing things differently, and often can be done with your existing resources and capabilities that you have already. And it is just about, again, being aware of what you are strong at, and then really taking that opportunity to think of where there is perhaps weaknesses within your current business model, perhaps, where there is opportunities that are out there that you have those strengths internally already that you can take advantage of. And I think, a core thing also to bear in mind, we're hearing some really great stories, but, there's been lots of other stories as well where innovation and creative thinking, I believe shouldn't be a solitary process. It really thrives on people coming together and various different diverse perspectives coming together, and the power of networks to enable innovation and creativity, the power of empowering your employees is really core as well, and getting everyone into that mindset of thinking about how can we do things better, and almost thinking, rather than thinking how can we innovate or how can we be creative, how can we improve things, how can we do things better, and by its very nature that will lead to new innovations, new ways of being creative.
And what sort of support is the business school currently offering to help companies cope with those challenges and with their plans for recovery?
Well, the business school really wants to be there for businesses. We've always had a very good relationship, and often tried to be on the ground with businesses, responding to their needs. And back in March, we very quickly put together a business support group, really aimed at following and identifying companies' needs right now and ways that we can support them at this very moment in time. And we then very quickly put up a COVID-19 webpage. We developed a range of supports. So some of the supports that we have, for instance, is we have one-on-one business support sessions where we've been working over the last couple of months with different businesses, whether it is, informal chats about worries, whether it's having academic experts help identify various different challenges that companies have and identify tools and techniques that might help transform their business. We also have been running things such as webinars. So we've had our Economic Policy Centre trying to decipher what does all the information mean for businesses on the ground. We've partnered up with Marvel Marketers, where we now have a series of webinars that are free and open for companies to join in about business transformation. And also more recently, we're also offering free courses that are funded by the Department of Economy on different topics such as business analysis and consultancy and professional development, whereby companies and individuals who are impacted by COVID-19 can really come along to those courses, upskill and retrain. We've got something for everyone, and we really want everyone really to reach out to us, get in contact, and if there's any way we can support you, we really will.
Well, that sounds good. Gareth and Ciaran, things are starting to get back to a bit of a new sense of normality, and there's a lot of talk about this new normal, whatever it's going to be like. For both of you, I assume that means that the companies with whom you were previously doing business are now back at work to a degree, and your old markets are back. So what will all of that mean, Ciaran, maybe first, and for your business in terms of how you're going to be operating in the future in this, hopefully, post-COVID-19 landscape?
Yeah, things have changed for us coming out of this, and I think will change permanently. Not only we have new products to offer, so I've talked to you already about face shields. Also in the last few weeks, we've also developed a brand new product called Huhtamaki, which is a face mask, a general face mask for the general public. So whereas face shields is aimed predominantly at the healthcare sector, for the mass market, we've produced a really high quality technical face mask. And that's all about protecting people. So not only are we targeting to put that into retail, if you think about all of our big customers, protecting their staff. So, we are already talking about not just continuing to supply food and drink packaging, we're also talking to our customers now on day and daily about how can we protect their staff, how can we protect their customers, and how can we enable them to get back to work and life in a really productive way. So that it is a whole new landscape for us completely, and a whole new business model. And
as regards the way that you work and that you have been working, you're never going to go back to the way it was before, are you? Where it's going to take months to come up with something. You got used to this business of doing everything, being at work and getting on with it.
Yeah, rapid development cycles and agility is definitely here. If I keep saying to myself, just take some time to write down exactly all the processes and define those and structure those so we can repeat those. So, there definitely will be a lot of learnings from us in terms of how we did it. But look, we're still doing it. We're still, I honestly don't think that we have, the increase in speed of change. I think we're still in the middle of that. The new normal, people are adapting to a new way of life. Society is different. Industry is different. And I think that as suppliers into that new normal, there's still as many opportunities now at this stage and in the next few weeks and months as there would have been in the last weeks and months. So all of those lessons that we've learned about speed to market and breaking down old processes, I think those changes are there, and we are already in a process of learning from them.
Gareth, what about you? This new normal, how's that going to look for Copeland? Are we still going to be putting alcohol on our hands as well as into a glass?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, from our point of view, because of our size and because we're a fairly young business in the grand scheme of things, we have a lot of new capital equipment arriving, which was booked and paid for last September. That's arriving in a matter of weeks now, and that'll allow our normal business for the focus to mainly go back on that. I think, we're currently chatting to our customers and seeing how they're getting on. I mean, they've only just started. They've only just opened back up bars and restaurants. A lot of our contracts that we had that were then just cut are now starting to, that conversation's starting back again. A lot of the export side of things, it's all very young still. We're all still having, we're tittering around, whether those contracts are going to come through and when they're going to come through. We're not exactly pushing our customers to go back to the new normal, which, from my point of view, and as a young business with a cash flow, large cash flow requirement, we're then pushing it back on our main suppliers to see, if they can help. But we're all in the same boat. If we're not selling bottles of gin, then we're not buying bottles of gin, or we're not buying glass bottles. And thankfully, all our suppliers know that. So I think, hand sanitizer definitely will be around. It definitely will be a large requirement. Hopefully, it doesn't require, and we can get back to drinking more than rubbing more. But definitely, I mean, we've flipped, and we're, from my team anyway, they're my head distiller. He's obsessed with whiskey and gin, which is good. So obviously telling him to produce hand sanitizer hasn't been the easiest, but I know he's looking forward to getting back to the new normal, whatever that might be. But we have a lot of plans coming up. We're early next year, late this year, we're going for a large investment round, and we're really looking forward to getting that ready. And that hasn't put us off anyway. If anything, it's put into perspective the fact that we are in this for the long term. And if it was a short term win, it would definitely be getting rid of everything we've just bought and putting in hand sanitizing units. But no, we're looking forward to what the new normal will look like.
Well, certainly, by the looks of things, there'll be a fair bit of business model innovation going on in the next few months, and very much one of your areas of expertise there, Kristel, too. But for lots of companies, the immediate firefighting perhaps is over, and they're now beginning to plan for the long term, looking at what's going to come next, how they're going to integrate what they have been doing in the last few months with what maybe they had intended to do, and where they're going from here on. From each of you, I wonder, what advice would you offer, just very briefly, to organisations that are looking for new opportunities and that need support in their recovery efforts? Ciaran, what about you?
A couple of things, Wendy, and it's been one of them. The first of them has been mentioned a few times actually, and it's so true. The power of networks. One of the big strengths we have here in Northern Ireland is you don't really have to reach out too far to get really good help and advice and support. Gareth, super example himself. He's talked about Ciaran Kennedy and O'Neill's. You can see what Block Blinds are doing, what we've been doing in Huhtamaki, and there's many other examples. But I think all of those examples and all of those companies that have done that is a really good example to other companies that, we can stretch ourselves when we go into new opportunities. There was a crisis here. The health service and the healthcare sector were in crisis, and they put their hand up and they said they needed help. Now, traditionally, we always look over our shoulder and wait for, China or Taiwan or the States to come in with solutions. But if you look around about what the industry here in Northern Ireland has done, industry has put their hand up and they've done it. You go into Block Blinds operating out of a leisure centre here in Maherfelt, and there's 300 or 400 kids, operating at a super level of efficiency, at a super level of accuracy. Those kind of solutions are here to be done within our own economy. We don't always have to be looking to far off fields for solutions.
So closer to home, it's best, perhaps. Gareth, well, what about you? If you were giving a bit of advice to organisations that are looking for new opportunities and for a direction at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, what I would kind of suggest is, look at what you're currently good at, and see how you can improve it. I mean, we looked at what we could do in-house from our technical point of view. There's a lot of pressure put on Will, our head distiller, to work out how to make a hand gel. But we then started asking the questions. We asked like Ciaran said there, we asked people who knew more than us. We asked our competitors. I mean, at one stage I was calling Pritchett's, who are the dairy producer in Newton Ards, whether we can borrow some hydrogen peroxide that they use to clean their pipes with, because we wanted to make hand sanitizer from it. So, but we were asking those questions that we didn't really know much about, whether it was able to be done. And I think, it is that, Northern Ireland's such a small place, people will help you out. But look at what you're good at and try to improve it, and see what ways you can kind of work off the back of that. I mean, we slightly changed our bottling line from hand filling hand sanitizer bottles to putting it through our bottling line. It only shaved off probably 5 seconds per case. But, we didn't realize back then that, we were going to end up doing 30,000 cases. So I think, take risks and ask stupid questions. But there's definitely opportunities out there. And, there's no one who knows more than your competitors, and they're happy to help these days.
Very interesting, isn't it, Kristel? And it's not all just to kind of take risk, ask stupid questions, ask your competitors. It's a whole pull together of all of those different things that's made the difference here, isn't it?
Yeah, completely. I would echo with what both Ciaran and Gareth have said. And I suppose for me, thinking about companies moving forward is really thinking about more openness and more collaboration as being really key. There's so many opportunities that can come from collaborating with others. And I think very early in lockdown, we've seen that from a lot of small businesses coming together with new collaborative delivery models. And we're also seeing now that, the ways that we're solving global challenges is by companies pulling together and collaborating. So I think moving forward, a lot of companies, really should look beyond their own boundaries of their own business models and think about how they can engage with different individuals that they never maybe would have thought of engaging with before, whether it is, their competitors, their suppliers, universities, really the list is endless, and the opportunities are endless as well, and how we can all co-create new value together and really come out of all of this a lot stronger. However, in saying that, I know that, there's a lot of support that's out there for businesses. So I would really urge businesses really to leverage that support. But I also acknowledge that it's very confusing. There's so much going on. It's changing on a daily basis. It can be quite overwhelming. So I suppose moving forward, if there's ever any businesses that are, feeling that they're overwhelmed, they don't really know where to begin, is definitely reach out to the business school. We're all very, very open to speaking to anyone about anything. We're very engaging, whether you reach out to an individual member of staff or whether you reach out to or engage at ulster.ic.uk email address. Definitely just get in contact, and if there's ever any ways that we can help you, we definitely will.
Kristel, thanks very much indeed. Thanks to Gareth and to Ciaran as well for joining me for Innovate to Survive. And thank you very much for watching and listening. I'm Wendy Austin. This has been a Business of Possibilities podcast from Ulster University Business School. Make sure you subscribe to the series wherever you get your podcasts, and keep an eye on Ulster University Business School's social media channels for updates each week. Thanks for watching.